Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I have the blank, which is great. The lesser the rack, the rest of the rack less so. But probably too good to change. I think if opponent changes, I could play Velt, keeping DW blank, and that would be better than changing. Could there be a bingo here? Probably not as a 7, but maybe an 8. Not really sure. That would probably end ED. I'm close to low Velt, but that doesn't use 2 Ds. Opponent taking a while with his opening move, which suggests that maybe he won't be changing. Usually changing racks are so grim that it's a reasonably straightforward decision to come to. So is Veld my preferred option should opponent change? Well, he doesn't. And I think it's the O which is most bingo-y. But not seeing a bingo through that. Just looking at the other floaters, nothing doing. Can't see anything great through the B. I would like to split up V and W and the duplicate D. And I can do all of that with Wolved. Wow, that doesn't look remotely like what I intended. Let's have a go, another go. Wolved for 21. Potentially this is hugely dangerous. I'm setting up a double-double lane with an E underneath the double word square, so in quite a useful position for a double-double. But I'm in a good position to respond with a bingo fairly shortly, given that I have the blank. So 21 points. Pretty good, slightly vowel heavy, but I'm optimistic that there is a bingo here. I have Decidui through the D. What else do I have? Alas, I don't have a double-double through the E of Wolved. Slightly too many vowels, or not one that I'm seeing anyway. So supposing Decidui is blocked, and it's likely to be, I expect opponent to play around this area. Born takes an E. I could have played Veld last turn, but I think I preferred getting rid of the W with the V, especially as I had the blank on my rack. Now, I have not seen further bingos, which is slightly concerning. What about this N? I have audience through that. Wow, that stops in column 10, so could be blocked by a column 11 play. That would be frustrating. What about a play ending ER? No. Now, E chordate is good. So I would need an A or a T for that. If opponent plays a double-double, he will be providing new floaters. How about this L? I could have a play beginning LEA. And beginning with a vowel higher up as well. Opponent taking a while on both of his opening moves, so maybe he'll be short of time later in the game. I think it's too early to rush my own plays, however. 15 or 16 minutes is still a lot of time for opponents. So do I have anything other than audience through this N, and do I really not have a 7? Row I is super available for a 7. I'm going to go through the alphabet. So I'm just looking for let me just hold off. So Decidui definitely blocked, audience not blocked. I do have a bingo. It's only face value. I would have abductee through a B or a T. That doesn't work. 28 for opponent. Opponent not provided any floaters, but he has provided useful 7-letter lanes. So I am going to look for a 7. How about this double C? No, not seeing anything there. Or there, triple E, unlikely. 18 minutes on my clock. That's audience through the N. And I think this is worth doing. A 7 would be a lot better than audience, I think, in terms of score. But it's not looking promising. How about the R? No, not seeing anything there. That was the abductee rack. Cordex, but that's only a 6. No, so I'm grateful for having a bingo. It is going to open the board wide open, but that's not a bad thing. Audience for 61. Wow, I know it's 7 random tiles, but one always hopes for a better rack than purely random. And this is towards the bottom end of the scale. Quite a tricky rack to sort out. Onto an A, I have Wu Chia, keeping double N and not scoring very much. I would like to split up U and W, so maybe play Unwind and keep the X back. The X is a good scoring tile. Yunks, I have Yunks, row H. That's certainly the best I've seen. And maybe I should consider X plays. I could play under the A of audience. Yunks may remain available because opponent may be attracted to the floaters in audience. And without the X, a Y play isn't going to score hugely. I have Nix in column 13. But the problem with that is that it retains W and U. Only 20 points for Unwind, which is pretty disappointing. Is there anything better? Fantastic, Yunks remains available. I don't have a tile for going next to the J, so I don't have anything this turn in column 14. So Yunks for 42. Wow. I was hoping my luck would turn in terms of picks, and it hasn't. This is awful. I do have the W for score. I guess Iwi is the obvious play, if there's a spot for it. Iwi and Ita, the K has gone for the K front hook for Iwi, but that's such a low score. I may be better off changing. Iwi and Is, 14 points. That's getting close to the point where it's better to play than to change. And what about an alternative to Iwi? Well, no, E for Whinier. That would sort out the duplicate I's and the duplicate R and get rid of the W. I have Wira in column 3, but that doesn't get doubled. I guess Wind. Wow, keeping double I, double R. and only 16 points, but I am taking out a double-double lane and interrupting column 4 as well. Opponent may well play in column 14 to score off the J and the K, but I may not be in a position to play in column 15 because of my lack of options in terms of vowels. So, well, opponent does not play in column 14. Iwi remains available in column 11. Opponent has played off an S, and he's only scored 16 points, so he must have a duplicate S. Okay. Well, that's interesting because Iwi does not allow a 7-letter play ending in S because that's obstructed by opponent's second N in unpins. And Iwi is taking out a 7-letter lane in column 11. Only 14 points. Let me put this back. 15 minutes on my clock. What else can I do? Nowhere new for Iwi by opponent's play, apart from column 3, which isn't as good. I do not feel that this is best at all. Wok and we are good. 30 points, I like the score, but 3 eyes. I have to do something about that. And I can't play any eyes in that spot. Tar takes an eye. Well, what about wire? Interesting. 31 points. And this rack leave isn't too awful. I'm getting rid of the duplicate R at the expense of keeping duplicate I, but overall this doesn't look terrible, and it goes quite well with the S of unpins. Wire takes an S and a T in front, so this is volatile. I know opponent's got an S, but a row B S bingo is going to score only face value, and it's going to provide access to the triple word square, so that doesn't bother me. I am going with this. Wow, I think this bag only contains I's and R's. And I now have no scoring tile, and my lead just 30 points. So, what to do? If I change double IR, my rack leave of rinse would be quite good. RINS, that is. Q takes an I, but the best I can do in that regard is Siri, and that burns my S. 16 points. What about playing nice I? 8 points. It does take out the S. I don't like it. I'm minded to change. Or what about playing Siri, keeping a pretty decent rack leave, obstructing bingo lanes? Siri doesn't take an S. If opponent plays down column 8, he'll be providing 2 new floaters. And I've got a pretty decent 3-letter set, and there is a 7-letter lane for bingos ending in S. How dangerous is this double letter square next to the I? The B can go there. H can, M can, P can. Well, they're not massive tiles, they're not Zs and Js. And Siri is obstructing all these floaters in pins. And I know opponent's got an S. I am going with this. Wow, more eyes. There's still one in the bag. This is really disappointing. Maybe if I'd changed, I would have kept an R as well as INS, and I would have had Insider. Maybe nowhere for that. Now I have Nide-Eye on my rack, which I can play in column 15, which completely sorts the rack out, just about, keeps IES. Well, I'm not going to be plagued with eyes for any more turns. So that's quite attractive and certainly better than changing. This game hangs in the balance. I feel that opponent is on the brink of bingoing, and my racks just haven't been close, but still 45 tiles to come. And I do have the basis of a bingo-y rack with the tiles that I have. They're all bingo-y tiles, it's just the triplicate E that's the problem. Neither W is available for an EWE play. An exchange of double I. Worth considering. Snide is an excellent 5-letter set. And with row B, well, maybe it's worth doing. What does Nide-Eye score? 17. Well, I think Nide-Eye is better, but I think the moves are close. But the Nide spot may be blocked if opponent plays in column 14. I don't have anything great to play in column 8. Well, what about Dine? 27 points, that's got to be better than changing. And I'm taking out a scoring spot for opponent. And I can play Den-I to put an I in row O to make it less useful as a floater. Yeah. That may be worth doing in preference to Nide-Eye, should both remain available. Wow, opponent plays off the final S, albeit it is achieving something. In unpins, it just added 2 extra points, whereas with this play, he's reaching the double word square, so maybe he simply had 7 consonants. But that is a wonderful sight. Opponent trails, and the board starting to look tight. Plus, I now know that opponent doesn't have an S, but he may have jettisoned it because he had the blank. Now I like Nide. It's stopping opponent scoring off the J, and it's sorting my rack out. Well, what about playing MIDI? 21 points. This is a nicer rack because the N really helps EIS a lot, and it scores more. I am going with MIDI. F and V, horrible tiles in themselves, and together really bad. However, I do have the tiles for 5, which would sort it out. But where does that play? Wow, this is frustrating. I would like to get rid of the F and the V, but that may not be possible. Very intriguing to know why opponent burnt his S. Maybe he doesn't know the Swire hook and placed less value on it. Hewitt does not take an S. Has opponent provided a spot for 5? No. 5 not good. No A for Vifta. Do I have an if I's word? Then if I's not good, so no I don't. Wow. This is tricky, I have to think. I do have 5s and Swire, but that's definitely not good. Not optimal, rather. How much time do I have? 10 minutes. Well, yes, what about 5 here. 10 points, completely taking out 2 useful floaters, effectively forcing opponent to bingo in columns 3, unlikely, 5, possible, B, most likely. But that's fine because I have quite a bingo-y set. So if opponent doesn't bingo, I may get my bingo down first and then really lock the board up. What I am doing with this play, though, is providing an opportunity to get 40 or 50 points for a non-bingo. That's not good. Let me put this back. Just wondering if I have a play through the L. Well, I don't feel great about this, but I'm doing it. I am doing it. Five for 10. So I have ozone eyes in row B. That's good. ZE is good. I have zones for a gazillion points in row. Wow, bingo for opponent. And through the R, I have ozonizer and snoozier, but neither works, which is a shame, and there are no other anagrams. Opponent's now got a 50-point lead. But I've got zones in row N, but that leaves available row A for opponent to score. Let me see what this scores. That's 99 points. Pretty good. That would take me to 290, a 50-point lead. And opponent's likely to get 50 points on his next turn, and I'm keeping just I&O. But I can't turn down 99 points. But can I do better? Ops and eyes may be good. No, not enough space for that. E doesn't look good. Is there anywhere for O's and eyes that I haven't considered? No, I don't think so. Do I have a Z play which doesn't burn the S? No. What about zoons, though, rather than zones? Just because there are a lot of O's to come, and this is a better rack leave. Zoons for 99. 5 vowels, but I do have a scoring tile in the Y, and I have a 50-point lead. It's a tight one. Now my Y can go underneath this O. But do I have a 4-letter Y play? The S is always problematic for vowels. It only takes an O underneath it, and I don't have a Y something O play. Wow, that's close. I do now have vowels which can go next to the J, but it's a poison chalice because whatever I score there is going to open up a scoring opportunity in column 15. 7 minutes on my clock and 8 on opponents. Quite a lot of scoring tiles to come. Let me check the vowels. 12 out of 26. It's a balanced bag. This game is balanced on a knife edge. I've not really looked at row A. I'm assuming opponent is going to play there. Now, what other options are available at the bottom? My Y can go underneath the N, so... Well, so nothing. I don't have any YO plays. Nope. Where else is good for my Y? Pretty much nowhere, and yet that's my only scoring tile. Not looking good. I have repay in row C, but that's going to leave 3 vowels, and I could easily end up with 7. Opponent took ages on his first 2 moves, but right now we've got a very similar amount of time on our clocks. Actually, not too many scoring tiles can go on this double letter square. It's really just the B and the F. So opponent may not have 40 or 50 points, he may just have 20 or 30. And there aren't too many scoring spots on this board. What about retaining the Y and just playing a bunch of vowels down the bottom here? Well, interesting. I have Raya. R-A-I-A. S takes an I as well as an O. Raya, that's interesting because it preserves the Y for score and it stops opponents sticking an M or an H underneath this O. So this is what I want to happen. Opponent gets 20 points by playing something rubbish through this R, and I play Raya and hang on. Will that prediction be realised? So what does Raya score? 22 points, pretty good. Wow, 42 points. Opponent did have the B, so he's breathing down my neck. Interesting. I'm still minded to play Raya because an F can go there, a D and M can go there. It's just a good scoring spot. Let me just pause because I said that only an O went under the S. So bearing in mind that an I can. Do I have any Y blank I plays? No, I don't. Or something YI? No, not seeing anything better than this. Wow, still 14 tiles in the bag. Now, my Y is useful for breathy. It could also go between these two E's. If I drew another E and there are 4 to come, I could play I in 2 directions. So I think this is the play. Wow, another vowel fest. Thank goodness I hung on to the Y. But my lead, less than 30 points. Remaining vowels, 6 out of 17, but there's still a blank to come. I think a bingo would be the end of me, but the only 2 bingo lanes are through this A, ending A something, and through the P. Both unlikely, or a big overlap in row B, so pretty dry for bingo spots. Ita only takes an S. So the best I can do up at the top is something like EA, but that's just setting up a big play in column 15 and doesn't score that much. So I think this J spot far less dangerous than I thought. Now I have Y, E, A and breathy. 28 points, interesting. And what about I and P? Well, EY isn't good, so no, I do not have that, but I do have breathy. Apologies for misleading you over EY. Gosh. Breathe is also good, so I could play I, E, Y, E. That's going to score even more, I think. 31 points. Will opponent obstruct that? There are 2 E's to come. He could play EF for a half-decent score. That would really make me think. Opponent down to 4 minutes. What about plays parallel to unpins? Un takes an I. Well, I don't have one of those. So I'd be restricted to playing AE. 20 points, interesting, and that would retain the Y for score. I would still prefer to play I, but that could be blocked. Opponent, when playing breath, must have had in mind the hooks. But if opponent's got the blank, what is he going to be thinking about? Remaining tiles really not bingo-y. 3 Gs, 3 Os, 3 Ts, a U. Really not bingo-y at all. No A's, no I's, no S's. No I for QI, so that spot won't be used unless the blank goes there. High takes an A in front. Well, any play down there is likely to open column 1 unless it begins with that A. Only the F and M to come as scoring tiles. Wow, this is going to be such a tight end to the game. And look at this, opponent down to 2 minutes on his clock. Great, he leaves alone my I spot, only scores 25 points, nothing new for me. Let me pile the time pressure on opponent. I draw the F, one of the only remaining scoring tile. Fantastic. Is it going to make the difference? I have oaf in column 4. 26 points. That could be enough to keep me going. My lead just 30 points. Surely opponent is not going to bingo now. Column 3, the only bingo lane left. And I'm not seeing anything through that. So supposing oaf is blocked, or maybe there's something better than oaf. This is a tight game. I have a foot on my rack, should I need to play off a lot of tiles, but I'm not seeing anywhere for that. Few is good. So I have feel, few and bar. Wow. I have fool. Great, because there are 2 O's to come, so playing fool stops me being landed with 4 of them. 28 points. That remains available. The opponent's done the right thing. He has opened the board up, but I am going to kill that stone dead with footage for 36. Bang! And what does opponent have? Well, I don't think there are any bingo lanes. I lead by 60. I am surely going out with a go. I have a go and Joe. Do I have a second out? Surely I do. Well, I don't need to worry about that. My original spot remains available. Opponent down to 1 minute. I have 6 minutes. So let me find the best out. A go. 17 points. Feg is good and oh no is good. So it's 17 to beat. Peg is good. Time to slow down a bit and get this right. A lot of points are lost at this stage of the game, especially when you know the game is won. So G is good. Ah, well, I have a go down here. Well, that's the same number of points. Yep, I am going with this. And the final score, 348 to my opponent, 403 for me, a winning margin of 55 points, so a huge, huge win. Let's see what I missed. Wow, what a game. Actually fairly low scoring with only one of us over 400 points, but it didn't feel like a low scoring game. So it was my opponent to go fast. Opponent says he missed a sitter. Let's see what that is. So opponent went first with Born, and I played Wolf, and nothing obviously better. Opponent's rack quite nice. No bingo. Plays Today's. Wow, there was a 7. Educate. Audience was what I played, but I could have got 9 more points. I, 11. Educate. Sticking an E in the middle of row O. So actually audience probably better, but pretty remiss not to have spotted Educate. I mean, one can dwell on why. It's not although it's a common word, it doesn't have a common beginning there. Now, I played audience, and opponent has the J, plays Jack. And now I begin a series of racks which were just so annoying. Except for the fact that Yunks remained available, so that felt pretty good. Opponent's rack. And this is where he burns his S. Let's go back. He did have 2 S's, okay, and he was sorting out duplicates, and it's the top play, so that's fine. Now, such a frustrating rack. What do? I play wire for 31, and actually that's a pretty nice move. 3 more points, keeping triplicate I double R, an absolute horror show, so I think wire is better. Opponent's rack, plays chin, and look at this, this was my 3rd successive really annoying rack. And what do? I play Siri for 8, keeping INS. And you can see the above rack leaves are worse, apart from Irid. E5. Yeah, Irid would have been a much better play. It wouldn't have gifted this opportunity at the bottom of row 8, and it would have kept a better rack leave. So Irid certainly better. Horrible rack for opponent. And this is where he played Mills. He did have a 7 consonant rack. That's why he played off his S when he didn't have a duplicate S. So I lead by just 17 points. I play MIDI for 21, and I like that. Opponent's rack plays Hewick, and now just 11 points between us. And my rack drawing continues to annoy me. F and V. N8 D veins, pretty good, 38 points. What do? Interesting, very interesting, because D veins is going for score and burning the S, whereas 5 is retaining a bingo rack leave, bearing in mind row B. And obviously 5 massively worked out for me with the Z, but that is not the test of whether this is the right play. You would really need to simulate these 2 moves, and even that wouldn't give the complete picture, because it would assume, simulations always assume perfect play by both players, which never happens. Anyway, there are 2 very different options on offer here, and I went for 5. Opponent's rack. Does he get this? Yes, he does. Replated. That's not the sitter he missed. And now I'm sitting with a bingo, ozonized. Opponent has just blocked ozonized. No bingo here. And all of these top 4 options are in the same spot, and Zunes has the best rack leave, so I like that. Wow! Missed bingo, and if that's the sitter, it's a jolly difficult one, and it's a sitter I may well have missed myself, but Hebetate was available. Where's that B2 through this E? Gosh, that would have made a difference. That would have taken opponent to 320, a 30-point lead, and could well have won in the game. So a big miss by opponent. Plays breathe. Plays breath. He could have stuck an E on the end of that, so possibly the E on the end is the sitter he was referring to. Anyway, we are now just 6 points apart, and I have got a 5-vowel rack. So I play Rhea to take out a hot spot for opponent and retain the Y for score, i.e. B2. Interesting. Yep, i.e. possible in B2, 31 points, but then that would have left alone this really good scoring spot. And opponent did have the M for going there. So again, a choice of 2 very different moves, which it's difficult certainly on the hoof to compare properly. But as long as you give some thought to the moves that you make, it's better than giving no thought or just slapping down the first thing you see. Now, I have got a slender lead, but opponent has got the blank. And opponent plays Eam. I've got a horrible rack, but look at this, 31 points available for I, and I think that possibly made the real difference in this game. Opponent has run out of bingo lane, so creates one by playing God. And I have footage to kill that stone dead and pretty much win the game. Opponent now needs a bingo to win on a board with no bingo lanes. So opponent plays Genu, and now finally 17 is all that was available. So what an absolutely epic game, nip and tuck, with hardly anything between us until the end. Opponent sitting there with the final blank, but on a very tight board, unable to get a bingo down. Opponent misses a bingo with Habitate and fails to put an E on the end of breath, and it could well be that second miss which caused me to win the game, because it enabled me to play I hooking breath with the E. So incredibly dramatic stuff. Many thanks to my opponent for a great battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game, and I will see you next time.